iZombie Season 3 premiere heaven just got a little bit smoother. Show's finally back. The comedy, crazy zombie show, technically owned by DC. I always wonder how many people know that, because it's technically one of the million DC shows that's on TV right now, specifically on CW, because they have all of them, and they're getting another one later in the year. But I really enjoyed this premiere. I was glad to see the show come back. We have our new villain, who, through this episode, I kind of don't hate her as much as I thought I would, because, we get to see her at the end of the finale last year, and it was like, okay, she comes in, they're eating, like, Rob Thomas's brain, and it's like, yeah, we're going to basically start, our own zombie thing. It's going to be like the zombie capital of the world, and I'm like, that kind of sounds like all-out war to me, because you got a bunch of zombies, and they eat brains, and so that sort of thing sounds like it's going to, it's not going to blend, it's going to clash. So I'm like, alright, she's going to be our big bad for the next season. And then this episode kicks in, and I'm like, she's not really that bad of a person. They have, like, their whole, system. It's kind of like Max Rager. Like, they have this whole company with this secret, organization, or a secret, thing going on. And it's not as devious. Like, Max Rager is like, well, let's turn people into zombies and kind of rule the world, that sort of weird stuff. And this is more like, well, we've been turned into zombies, let's survive in the world. And it's not as bad, as it kind of goes on. It's like, she is not a villain in this. And it was actually kind of cool, and I was like, I like that. But we know it's not going to work out perfectly, and I'm excited to see how they play that, because it was like they have, children, which I cannot wait for them to explain this. Are zombie kids like zombie vampires? Like, do they age to a certain maturity and stop, or are they stuck as kids? I would love to get some explanation on that. But they have, like, a school. They bought an island where they're going to fit, like, all the zombies that they know about, which I would assume at some point that wouldn't be enough. Like, just even through accidents, or, people that decide they don't really care if someone's a zombie. Maybe, much like the woman in this episode, maybe some people will decide, well, I love this person and they're going to live forever. I'd like to live forever with them. Or, at least for a super long time until we decide we're done. And it was just interesting. I was like, I'm very curious how this is going to play out. And, we get a story about her, which I cannot wait for her to find out that it was Blaine. Because, of course, she tells the story. It was like, I wanted to be with my husband. I cared more about him, than he probably would have expected. So I made myself a zombie so that we could be together. And then he ends up being killed by Blaine because he found his own means of getting brains. So Blaine just got rid of him. And it was like, okay, well, obviously, we have our main characters. They kind of look at each other after she walks in. It's like, okay, well, we'll see what happens there when they decide to reveal that, or how that's going to play out. Because I have this really big suspicion that at some point, some way, shape, or form, she's going to end up meeting Blaine. And especially with him having amnesia, which it still brought up a lot that he's probably faking. And I just don't know. I can't remember what I used to think about it before, because it was really hard to say, but it didn't end. It wasn't like it was revealed that he was faking it or anything, and it's gone into this episode. And it's just like, I don't know. When they put everything together, especially when Donnie's talking to him, I'm like, I don't know if he is faking, because he talks about, like, you guys had me go on runs and this and that. And I'm like, I just don't see why he'd do that. Just like Donnie said, like, I would have joined you if you just told me. And I'm sure Blaine, considering the character, I think he'd be smart enough to know that Donnie would just play along with everyone. Like, yeah, I guess he doesn't remember. And I'm just like, I'm pretty sure he's not faking. Like, who knows? Maybe this could be like the crazy mega long con, and we'll see how that plays out, like, especially with his dad being thawed out, which very excited for that. But I'm just like, I don't really know. It's very hard to say if he's truly faking it or not. But if I had to put my money on it, I would say no. But it would be nuts if, especially if they kept it going for, like, the first half of the season, then it's revealed at the mid-season premiere, like, yep, I knew the whole time. And that would just be insane. So, I don't know. Like, Donnie made a really good point. Like, he could have been faking the whole time, and it's to be the only person that's cured. And then, that sort of deal where he's cured, but, it's amnesia and stuff like that. So, I don't know. We'll see what the heck is going on with him. Personally speaking, I don't think he's faking, but you never know. This type of character, it's insane. So we'll see what happens with that. But I like what they did there, especially with Donnie being mad at him and him, unthawing his father at the end. So I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, this new kind of pseudo-villain character that we get to meet. I can't think of her name. I know her last name is Graves. But Really cool character. I like what they're doing with her, where she seemingly started off as like a crazy villain sort of character, where zombies want to take over, and then it's like not that big of a deal. Of course, they are training in case chaos does ensue, because it's like, all right, well, once humans find out, what's gonna happen? And we get a bit of taste of that in the end of this episode after the radio program goes on. And that kind of leads me to what we might be getting this season, which kind of has me excited because it's something they've never really touched on before. Well, technically they have with Major, but like an actual zombie hunter, I feel like that's what that was, because why else would those people have been killed? Like, no one knew that they were zombies unless they knew that they were zombies, and I doubt it would be other zombies, or we might find out that they were other zombies and it's other zombies that are scared to kind of be outed, so they kill these zombies kind of like as a warning sort of thing, and make it seem like, oh, it's just humans that did this to be like, hey, we know zombies exist, you better not, try to come for us. So that could be the reveal, that there's some other zombie organization or just some random people maybe that don't want zombies to kind of be outed in that way. But once that radio program got out there and the ball kind of got rolling, where people were like, it sounds like we're talking about zombies and stuff like that. And Clive and Liv go there, and the security guard's like, that's the guy who, he was definitely at the party. How did he get out alive? And stuff like that. And it's like, oh man, they're saying some stuff. And the guy on the radio, he was, as Clive even says, a lot closer than they would probably want him to be. So, it seemed like it was maybe like some zombie hunters, or, just humans that knew about zombies. So that's why they took out this family. And of course that does lead to whatever they're going to be doing for Clive, which I'm excited for, because sadly, it starts off as like, oh crap, he knows this little kid. And then of course they end up killing the kid and his whole family at the end. I was like, well, that really sucks. They could just let the kid live or something, and they just kill some other random zombies. I was like, nope, it has to be attached to Clive, and it makes me curious what's going to happen there, because he is, of course, the human character in this situation where you have, Liv and Major, and of course you still have, you have Clive, you have Peyton, you have Robbie. So of course they are all three human characters, but with him being that specific character where it's like he's been involved in all this madness, and now he knows what's going on with the zombies, and he's been out of the loop more than anyone else, it's really different for him. And now he's had this attachment, like, what was it, a day? I think that was like the next day, or like 2 or 3 days later, after realizing that zombies even exist, he finds this kid and this family that he used to be kind of close to, and they're all wiped out. And so that might lead him towards hating zombies. It might lead him towards wanting to protect zombies more, because it could be random moments like this where it's like they died for no reason whatsoever, just because, they were zombies. So I'm looking forward to what they do with his character in this season. Of course, there are other little things going on. We had some relationship stuff happening with Peyton and Robbie, where Robbie is, of course, very upset with Peyton having been with Blaine, and he's kind of ignoring her calls. They also seem to tease something as far as some random person tweeting a bunch at Peyton, so I don't really know what to expect from that, but I would assume it was Stacy Boss, just maybe anonymously, or he just had someone else random do it. So I don't really know what to expect from that. I thought it was weird. This is super random, but it kind of didn't make a lot of sense to me that her friend called her, because I would assume the question was, do you have a Twitter? Because she was like, yeah, but I haven't tweeted in this long. And I'm like, that kind of doesn't make sense, because you wouldn't know that someone was being tweeted if you don't know that they have a Twitter. Like, they would have to have specifically said their name, and you would have to like search their name for a super long time. So I don't know, it was just weird. Like, when she got a call from a friend she hasn't talked to in years, and the friend asked, do you have a Twitter? And then she has news about the Twitter, and I was just like, that seemed weird to me, that that's how that sentence was kind of played out. It would just be like, have you been on Twitter in a while? Would have been, I think, better. But that was just me. That was just a weird thing where I was like, was she looking her up on purpose? Like, I don't know. It was just weird to me that she asked her if she had a Twitter, and then she's like, okay, well, since you do, let me tell you this stuff that I knew before I asked you the question of whether you had a Twitter. So it's just like, that seemed weird to me, how that kind of played out. But she's got some random person sending her some random bad things. They don't really show anything. She just says, like, it's some nasty, kind of crazy stuff. Like I said, I would assume it's Stacy Boss, since he ended up surviving. But I don't know, it's hard to say. It could be anything. You never really know. But I'm just, my first guess is on Stacy Boss. He might actually return in this season, and we'll see how that stuff plays out. But that might lead to her getting a bit closer to Blaine. That's kind of how it seems to play out in this episode. We, of course, have Robbie going a bit closer to a cure. He actually has, like, I think it was like 17 vials of a new type of cure. So he's got a new cure going. we'll see if he can, or I guess that's the old cure, and so he's working towards a new cure, and we'll see what happens there. But he's basically stimulating a brain so that he can use, anyone can use the old cure, which I feel like they're going to have somebody use. I feel like someone's going to use it and they won't lose their memory, and that might be how they reveal that Blaine's been lying the entire time, just to see what he can do with like a fresh start almost. So that could be like the big reveal, how they do it, like some new person, maybe even Clive, and he's like, all right, well, you figured this out, I'll test it because I don't want to be a zombie. So he injects himself, and then he he's able to actually keep all his memories. And then maybe that's how they actually reveal it. Like, oh, I never lost my memories either. I never lost them to begin with. So Blaine's been tricking us like this entire time for some insane grand plan. I don't know what he could possibly gain out of this. Like I said, outside of a new start, I mean, he was already kind of on top of things, especially with Stacey Boss having been kind of taken care of a little bit in the last season. It's just like, I don't know. I mean, I don't really see what he could gain from continuing this sort of charade as far as memory loss. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm like, I feel like that's going to work. Someone's going to end up taking the cure. Maybe it'll lead to a reveal for Blaine, or it'll just simply be a cure, and then they kind of decide, do we actually give this to Blaine and allow him to regain his memories, or do we leave him as, like, good Blaine, because that's way, way better than the original character. So we'll see what happens there, but I really enjoyed this premiere. I like the stuff that they introduced. We have a character that I instantly thought was just going to be this big bad villain, and then it's like, nope, we actually just want to take all the zombies, go to an island, we're building a school, we're building facilities and stuff like that, and that's pretty much it. We want to tell the world at some point, but things, there are a lot of different, factors in here. It's like some people think it could work, some people say no, some people are in the middle. So we'll see where that goes. The end of the episode, we don't really know exactly how things played out, but I would assume that, Liv having gone to the company, it was kind of like, okay, I want to kind of work with you guys to avoid, bad situations like what happened, to Clive and then, Wally and his family. So I think that's kind of been a bit of a bonding moment for Liv and this company. And then we see that Major actually joined them. So I don't know what to expect from that. I mean, he's had some weird stuff where he keeps ending up, they always have the crazy super organization, and in one way or another, there's Major. He ends up working with them, and we'll see how that plays out too. I don't think it would be as crazy as him being the Chaos Killer, which was actually a pretty big factor in this episode as well, with everyone knowing that, and him just constantly being taunted about it. And even if he's cleared, it's one of those things, and that's kind of a real world thing, when you're accused of something, which technically he actually was that person, but even when you're cured, or cleared, not cured, but you're cleared of something, whether you actually did it or not, it's never news when someone's like cleared of something, unless they're like a famous person. Like if it's a normal person and it was all over the news that you did something horrible, and then it takes like, a month or 2 months or something, and then it's like, oh, it turns out, yeah, it was actually this person. You never see that stuff in the news. It's always like you have the big news, you're like front page news when you're the bad guy, and then you're like that little story on page 8 when it's proven that it's actually someone else, and you're just stuck. Like you have to tell every single person that wasn't actually me. Although in his case, it actually was. They were able to kind of manipulate the story because of other actual horrible characters. So in his case, people are actually right to call him that, but different reasonings and other things. But sucks for him, and I'm curious how that's going to actually affect him in this season, because of course he has his job, but the rest of the time is going to be, he's this guy who not only is a zombie who has super strength, who can potentially lose it depending on how things play out with this cure, and just how all the sorts of stuff they do with all the different cures, however that's going to play out throughout the season. But he's this guy who can potentially, if people kind of come at him and send him over the edge, he could lose it. He could just lose it and start killing people. And it's as simple as that. He could just snap. It might do something with the first cure as far as him possibly dying, and they mentioned that in this one as well. So there are a lot of elements to that with him outside of work, and him still being looked at throughout his entire town as the Chaos Killer, like this horrible human being. Very curious how that might affect his storyline throughout the season, but thought this was a great start. Really looking forward to the next episode. It seems like they're going to really be kicking up the comedy. I think this one was a really good introduction, because the first 2 seasons, they actually took out the main villain. Like, it was just one guy, it was one company the whole, the first 2 seasons. And now it's kind of starting over. It's a whole new thing. So this episode, they had the jokes in there, but it was a lot of serious stuff, and it was like introducing the characters and new plot lines that are carrying over from the last season. And I enjoyed it for sure, but I'm definitely looking forward to what seems to be just a hilarious episode coming up next week. But we'd love to know what you guys thought about this premiere, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I definitely want to know what you guys think about the Filmore-Graves company, which is an awesome name, Filmore-Graves. But it's crazy. Like I said, I thought in the last season, new villain, zombies taking over, they got to stop this because they just want to kill all humans. And it's like, not really. We don't even want to deal with humans. We just go to our island. Simple. So it's really complicated, but it's like somebody's got to be the villain here. And right now, she seems okay. And maybe it's going to be this secret group of people, whoever killed Wally and his family. Those might actually end up being the big bad villains that we don't really know about. I would assume Don E and Blaine's dad are definitely going to end up being important villains in this, because they're going to mess with Blaine, which would eventually link to Peyton, and then of course everybody else. So I feel like they'll be important villains, but I don't know if they'll be the main villains. But we'd love to know what you think about Filmore-Graves and everything they're about, and what we got to see, what you believe, what you don't believe. And of course, I just want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.